Hi, my name is Gene. Today I'm filming my third interview podcast. If you watch the previous two, you can see the background screen always changes because I'm still trying to kind of figure out how these interview shows are going to go. So what we've really come up with now is we're going to invite guests who generally come from different cultural backgrounds, and we want to hear their stories, and we want to hear their stories through their journeys. And through the interview, we're going to try to discover things that they were aware of before they came and new things they've become aware of after they came. So this is basically a journey of discovery, and I hope the audience can learn through these stories in the way that we interact with each other. It can help with their own imagination and curiosity about where they came from and the challenges that they're faced and how the essential soft skills that matter, which are self-awareness and empathy, can help them accomplish more of their goals. So before we get into the interview, I'm going to allow Miss Shanshan Li to give her brief introduction of herself.
Hi, I'm Shanshan. Really excited to be here today and do the interview. So I'm from China. I came from China 5 years ago when I was 17. So I came here like all the international students for college.
Okay.
Graduated in 2016 with double major in global business and graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I decided I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I accepted this job in LA and started working.
Okay.
But later I realized it was like a rotational program and I explored a lot of things in different departments. So I always wanted to do marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I'm currently in UCLA Extension, getting a certificate for social media and web analytics,
Okay.
and looking for internships and permanent jobs in the marketing field.
Yeah, so before we kind of get into more about what Shanshan actually does, I just want to do full disclosure. Last year, Shanshan was an intern for me here at EME China. And she basically designed the logo, and she also helped me kind of get my business started. So people who know my history, I've been living in Shanghai since 2011, and I decided just to move back to the US last year. So when I came back to the US, it was how do I rebrand my business and retransition my business, and I met Shanshan at one of my events, and she agreed to help me get this business started last year. So before we get into my signature question, also you might want to tell the audience a little bit about what you're doing for the American Marketing Association.
Right. So I'm currently the president of the American Marketing Association and the UCLA Extension Chapter.
Okay.
So basically we're American Marketing Association is one of the biggest marketing professional organization in the US,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like the collegiate chapter.
Okay.
So we do a lot of event planning, a lot of like professional event. We invite speakers. Jean came to one of our events last week.
Yeah.
Talk about resume building, interview skills. We do a lot of educational event like that.
Mm-hmm.
For the benefit of our members and then students around in UCLA. Also, we do a lot of social networking event. People join us, they wanted to get connections, they want to get their foot into the door for marketing because most people are students.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have like social events, so helping people to get to know the market, get to know each other, and in order to work together better.
So how did you actually become the president of the local chapter of AMA? Because it sounds like if you want to go into marketing, being the president of the local student chapter for AMA is kind of perfectly aligned with the career that you're trying to develop.
Mm-hmm. So I initially, when I was back in college, I was trying to explore the marketing route.
Okay.
But in my school, we never had a marketing department. So I was talking to the counselor back in my college, and he would just have you checked out American Marketing Association. I was like, well, I've never heard of it. And he's like, well, then you should. So he knows I'm moving to LA. He's like, when you're in LA, you should, somehow get involved because there's a lot of connections, good connections there in all the professions. Who's in marketing, the industry or whatever you wanted to get into. This is, somewhere you can start.
Yeah, it sounds like you have to do all of the marketing things to help a business promote itself anyway, with the events, the online to offline, the social media.
Right.
My question is, how did you actually become president?
Right. So after I got to know this, association, I went to the program in UCLA, and then I was really, really surprised and happy, to know they have a chapter there. Okay. And it was in a transition period. I joined around June last year.
Okay.
And so the president was leaving, and then a lot of people are kind of doing the transition for the board for all the leadership position. And so I just introduced myself, and then start doing things, start planning, start getting myself involved in this organization.
So it's kind of like a volunteer organization.
Yeah, totally, nonprofit volunteer organization.
So you started, I guess, volunteering your time, and it became a natural fit for you to kind of take over.
Right.
How many other volunteers currently work with you at the local chapter of the EME?
So we have around 10 active members. We're getting more and more based on our program, because people can join UCLA Extension or the UCLA Extension Chapter only if you were in the UCLA Extension.
Oh, I see.
And so we have different collegiate chapters around different universities, Fullerton, UC Long Beach, and but our program is a little special compared to the 4-year undergrad program. Okay. So there's a lot of fluent, I guess, people come and go since we have only 9 months of program length for us.
Okay.
So that's why we only have 10 active members, but it's always changing, always new blood coming in, and we're really excited about that too.
Okay, that's great. So I think we kind of have a brief idea of what you're currently doing and maybe what you're looking for. What this show really wants to talk about is your journey of coming from China to the US, kind of what your expectations were. And when you think about when you first came over, I assume back then you didn't speak English as well as you do now.
Yeah, no.
So this is really intriguing. So when foreigners come to the US, or when Americans go to any foreign country, there's a period where you have to learn the language, you have to adapt to the culture. The cultural difference is kind of what we really want to explore. What were some of the things that you experienced initially that kind of were surprising?
Yeah. So I went to this liberal arts school. I just landed in LAX. And I didn't really know that much about basically anything. It was a big surprise.
Now, when you landed in LAX, was that your first time in America?
It was.
Wow.
Yes. So that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm the only child in the family, and so everything was all planned out for me. It was not super surprise until I made this big decision. I'm well, I kind of wanted to go to America and study abroad and see how the education and life is.
That must have been a bold decision. How did your friends, family, and parents react to that decision?
So at that time, I think it's a strategic move.
On your part?
On my part.
Okay.
So what happened is I didn't have the idea of I wanted to go study abroad until high school.
Okay.
I always had this cousin. She was born and raised here. She's an American-born Chinese.
Okay.
She always come back every summer. We'll hang out. But I never understood her, because she's only speak English and I don't understand her.
Oh.
So I had this idea growing up, on the other side of the globe, there's this country, people speak different language than I do, and I don't understand them, you know? But in high school, it's kind of like a trend at that time. So the Chinese higher education, like college, is totally different, like opposite than what we have here. What I mean by that is it's easy for it's hard for us to get into the college, it's easy for us to come out in China.
Okay.
So
getting in is hard.
Get in super hard.
Because it's mainly based on test scores.
One test. Right.
Yeah.
So this test called Gaokao.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. It's like SAT, ACT, but you only have one chance to take it.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese education system is kind of like, because this test is important, everything that you learn in high school is going to be based on that test. And so different geographic location have different tests. Like the problem is different. So in high school, we spend the first year learn the basic, like about like math, Chinese, English.
Now, did you actually take the Gaokao?
I didn't.
You didn't take it. You just came directly from high school to LAX.
Yeah.
And basically started your journey over the past 5 years just adapting here.
Yeah.
Now, were you accepted to college before you came?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to do that. So it's kind of like how you guys apply for college. I did the same thing, but I was in China.
Okay.
So because at the third year of high school, everything is evolved the test. So since I'm not taking it, so I went to this like language school. I was prepping to go study abroad.
You had basically no choice because if you didn't come to the US, you had no college to go to in China.
Right, because I made the decision on the second year of my high school. I'm like, well, you know what? I passed the standard test. I can get my diploma from my high school. And the third year, I'm just going to prep to go study abroad.
So what did your parents think about that decision not to take the test?
My dad, he's very supportive as a father.
Okay.
I'm really lucky I have him. And so he's like, well, you know, like, you're kind of like grown up now, you know, like even though I was like in high school, you know. So he's like, well, you know, you can make your own decision. So if this is your decision you wanted to make, you're gonna go with it. You know, like I'll help you. I'll give you the fully support if this is what you wanted.
Wow, your parents were really progressive thinkers in
Yes.
China. That's not really the stories that you hear of friends and their relationships with their parents. That's generally not what you hear.
Right. So I think I have this, my family are super supportive. They, even though they're like pretty traditional, like part of them, my mom is more like the traditional kind of like part in my family. She's like, oh no, but like you're the only child, you're like our princess, you shouldn't go, like, you know. But I'm just like, well, you know what, like I think I have higher chance to get better education if I go study abroad, because in the Chinese educational system, it's like you have to be the top of the top. And I'm not from Beijing or Shanghai, so you have like disadvantage if you wanted to go to the top college in China. And like you said, you have to be super, super good in order to get in. So for me, I think the general higher education in America level is like higher than the general in China. And from my understanding from all of my friends, they're like, well, we didn't really learn anything, you know, in Chinese college. You can just, they don't take attendance, they don't really do anything. You go take the final test, you pass it, you're fine.
Yeah. So let's fast forward from the time you landed in LAX to today. How would you rate your satisfaction with your decision? Did your expectations generally come to fruition, or what kind of was unexpected? Were you disappointed in certain aspects of life here, and kind of share that with us?
I came in, I actually don't think I had that much of expectation. And so it was neutral for me. I'm just like, whoa, new land, you know, I'm like excited about this new experience. I was like pretty naive, like high school kid, like got in and everything was so different. Especially because my school didn't really have that much Chinese student. It was like a liberal arts school. We had like, I think I'm like the second Chinese, like mainland Chinese student in my college. And so it was very different. The culture shock was like, it was like shocking me the whole time. I didn't realize it was like culture shock until like I kind of got out of it.
But I think that was good for you because a lot of mainland China or a lot of foreign students who come here, they generally maintain their own social groups.
Yeah.
So they speak their own language. You know, anytime they're not in class, they're speaking their own language.
Right.
And it sounds like you've already kind of fully adapted and acclimated to the American lifestyle. And your English is no accent at all.
Yeah.
Even some slang coming out of your mouth.
I think, because I have no choice.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's good. That's something that's most valuable that I got out of this experience.
Yeah.
You know, like I think America is one of the, or California, Redlands actually, like is one of the places that like changed me the most. Because of this college experience that I got so close to American culture. Like I was in a fraternity and then I was doing all kinds of things that only American does.
Right.
And my Chinese friend, they're just kind of confused. They're like, what do you mean fraternity? You know, I'm just like, yeah.
So you've really embraced the American lifestyle, or at least the college lifestyle here.
Yeah, it's a process, but eventually, like freshman year, we just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. You know, like I have to figure out America, I have to figure out English, I have to figure out college.
Yeah. So as a business person who does business between the U.S. and China, this is kind of a message to a lot of the Chinese listeners that, you know, Shanshan took kind of a huge risk coming to the U.S. She faced a lot of uncertainty because, well, I assume you didn't really have a lot of friends or family here when you came.
No,
Yeah,
not really.
And basically she just had to dive straight in and really be immersed in this U.S. culture. So even though you've only been here 5 years, your language, her English speaking is almost perfect. You understand American culture. Obviously, you still understand your Chinese culture. So I think sometimes when you take risks, because Chinese people are generally conservative,
Right.
and sometimes when you take risks, it helps you position yourself for kind of what's ahead, because the future is always uncertain.
Right.
How do you think your experience over the last 5 years has positioned you for the career that you want to have? And also share with us kind of what are your career goals? I mean, do you hope to go back to China or do you want to stay here? I know you want to work in marketing. I mean, are you kind of seeing how the journey of where you came from is helping you to get to where you want to go in the future?
Yeah. My answer is definitely. I think this whole experience, like, I don't think I'm like totally different as a person, because the core value, the core like me, it's still who I am.
Right.
But I think this experience helped me to explore. Especially, I think college was more like trying to figure it out, trying to adapt, trying to fit in, trying to find my place in, you know, in this world, this part of the society. But I think the most thing that I got out of from my college experience is my adaptability. Because I studied abroad in Denmark. Yeah, when I was in college as well. So I lived in 3 different continents, and then I have to like, you know, learn and juggle this culture, you know, like cultural difference every day in my life.
Okay.
So it's huge learning curve.
Okay.
But if you like just go do it, you're eventually, like get there.
Yeah, and how's all of this experience shaping who you are? How does that align and how does that help you reach the next step of where you want to go in life professionally?
Right. So, I think before I was like not like a super shy person, but I was not super outspoken, very wanted to put myself in the like the spotlight. I think a lot of Chinese people like in there, because we're more conservative, we're like, okay, we're gonna be modest, we're just gonna, stay in our little corner.
Right.
But the American culture is more like American dream, I'm gonna be different. Like, like when you see from the pop culture, it's like, oh, dare to be different. Like in my college, kind of like the slogan is like, oh, a bulldog, you dare to be different. Like it's very different. So I think because of my experience, it made me kind of realize who I am, who I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this cultural, or I guess this experience, it made me feel like I'm more confident and then more comfortable in my own skin.
Okay.
And it helped me, like you said, I wanted to do marketing. I think it's very important. You know what you're talking about, you're comfortable, you're a people person.
Mm.
You can, carry yourself, I guess like in a comfortable manner when you're trying to talk to people.
Yeah.
You put yourself in other people's shoes, like the empathy that you're talking about.
Mm.
Like I think because I can put myself in other people's shoes, that made me, I think would be a better marketer, because I understand what other people's pinpoint is.
Yeah, I think everybody can definitely see that you've developed a lot of confidence based on this unique experience. So I felt that I'm doing an injustice. I haven't asked you any questions that you found difficult. So we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to ask you hopefully what will be a difficult question to answer. I want to ask you, or I want you to tell our audience, are you optimistic about the future? And if you are or are not, why?
About my future?
Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
So as a foreigner in America with the current policy, it's kind of like a difficult, period.
Mm.
But I think a lot of people, they wanted to see like, okay, I'm just trying to stay in this country, do whatever I wanted it in order to stay here. But for me, I think I passed that stage already.
Mm.
I wanted to do things that I'm passionate about, that makes me happy, that I could, contribute whatever I can offer, my ability, my skills. So wherever I go, I would prefer to stay here. That would, that would be the best situation, the scenario. But I'm optimistic about my future, because I think I have the ability, I have ink in my stomach, I can offer it to people.
And your future is here in the US.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it here.
Okay.
I think if you try hard, there's nothing, it's, impossible as long as you try hard.
That's a great attitude. So we're going to wrap this show up now. One of the things that we're going to do with these shows is if you want to connect with Shanshan, I'm going to have all of her social media links in the posts below. So thank you for inviting me to be a guest speaker. I enjoyed working with you. You did a great job at your internship last year here at EME. And I think there's only bright things for your future here in the US.
Thank you.
All right, so say goodbye to our audience.
Bye.
Bye-bye.